Let's talk about the different types of dairy sheep breeds there are. I'm Natalie Lucier from Waykeeper Farm and Nerdery, and I want to talk to you about the different options for dairy sheep breeds. When it comes to meat sheep or wool sheep, there are some very popular breeds like Dorpers and Merino sheep. But when it comes to dairy sheep, there are essentially three breeds that most people know and that you will most likely be able to find in your area. The most popular breed is the East Friesian. They were developed in northern Germany, and they are the biggest milk producers out of all three dairy sheep breeds. So the cool thing about this breed is that they can produce thousands of pounds of milk per year. Now that is the top of the line East Friesian 100% breeds. Now you may or may not be able to find such a high volume animal, and that might not be such a bad thing. So let me explain. The thing with East Friesians is they tend to be a lot less hardy. Because they were bred for high production, they need a lot of nutrition and they also need really good barn space. So that means they're not as hardy, they're more likely to get sick or have other issues. So it's really important to keep that in mind as you make your choice. Some distinctive qualities about East Friesian sheep is that they are polled, which means they do not have horns, and they also have naked tails. So if you see a sheep that does not have naked tails, then that means they are not pure East Friesian. So naked tails essentially means that they do not have fur or wool growing on their tail. And there are benefits to that because you do not have to dock their tails, essentially keeping their back area a lot cleaner for both milking and also to protect them from things like fly strike and other issues in different regions. Another thing to note when it comes to East Friesians is they're also productive in terms of lambs. So they tend to lamb twins and triplets. So it's a great thing if you want to grow your flock quickly to have more East Friesian genetics in your sheep flock. Another popular breed is the Lacone breed, which is from southern France. And the difference with Lacone and East Friesian tends to come down to production and hardiness. So Lacones are a lot hardier, but they're also going to be producing less milk. So this is the pros and cons. What you win in one, you lose in another. Another thing to keep in mind is that East Friesians are a lot woollier, whereas Lacones are a lot shorter wool. So this is great if you are in a warmer climate, and you can tell where these breeds were developed because the East Friesians in northern Germany probably needed a lot more wool, whereas the Lacone in southern France could get away with shorter wool too. Lacones are also polled, which means they do not have horns, and they also have fewer lambs. So not necessarily twins or triplets, although that can definitely happen, but just not as likely as with East Friesians. And finally, we have British milking sheep. So this is another breed that was developed in the 1970s in Britain, and these tend to be also very woolly, and they tend to have higher production than Lacones, but less than East Friesian. So they're kind of that middle ground between the two. They're also polled, which means they do not have horns, and they tend to lamb triplets. So they're also a high production animal. They're just not quite as high as East Friesians, but they do tend to be a little bit hardier. And the breed does contain East Friesian in their genetics. So it is not a brand new breed. It does come from East Friesian mixed with a couple of other breeds from Britain as well. So now you have some decisions to make. And I think for a lot of people, choosing the breed of milking sheep or dairy sheep that they want to get will depend mostly on what's available regionally. So a lot of times you might have a certain breed in mind, but then no one within a certain radius has those sheep available. So I think it's more important to find good quality sheep than it is to stick to a very, very specific breed of sheep. And so that would be my recommendation, is to try to find some dairy sheep farmers near where you live that are doing a great thing and really raising sheep right, because I think that is the biggest thing. If they are breeding for higher production or higher hardiness or whatever your goals are, that is more likely to align regionally with where you live. That is going to be better than trying to go off of a specific breed that you like for some reason. So that's what I did when I was looking for our sheep, is I was looking for someone who was doing milk testing, who was doing a breeding program for their sheep, and who knew that yes, high milk production is important, but also I want them to be hardy. I want them to be able to be outside a lot in our particular climate. And that for me means being able to go out in the winter and the summer. And so that's what we were looking for. And we found someone regionally that was actually 5 hours away, but I think that's not uncommon for a lot of people. You know, we might need to travel to get our sheep initially, but if you're able to get a good flock going and established, it's totally worth the travel. So those are the highlights on the different types of sheep breeds there are, and now it's time to find out if you should bring a ram to your farm or not. So go ahead and watch that video now, and then you'll also want to check out the whole series of dairy sheep videos that I have all about how much milk they produce, whether you should pick sheep in the first place or maybe a different dairy animal is right for you, as well as a ton of other videos on rotational grazing and other things that we've learned along the way.